The task today is to take a look at the foot peg on the left side of the bike. I've already done some work on the other side of the bike. I lowered the foot peg and moved it a bit backwards. I will do the same on this side. You will, by the way, see a video here on how I did it on the other side. Let me quickly show you what I'm planning to do. The foot peg and the gear shifter is held in place by this bolt, and what I want to do is to move it approximately to this location. So I will reuse this whole of this part. I will just extend this bar so it can be mounted like this, and this will go up there. But as you can see, all of this is quite rusty and ugly, and it's also a bit wobbly, and you can see this one, it's in really poor condition. So the first thing is to take everything apart and clean it. So this will make it a bit easier to get access to all the parts. And for the bike not to fall apart, I have made this spacer I can put on here. I will also take off the stand. So then the parts are off the bike, ready to be cleaned. And to do that, I will of course use my beloved grinder. The angle grinder is very nice for this kind of work. Of course, there is a lot of different kind of discs, accessories you can put on your angle grinder. The typical cutting and grinding disc are no good for this work. They will cut into the metal, and I don't really want to remove the metal, just the surface rust on them. You have this flap disc, which is actually layers of sandpaper. You can get them quite fine. This one is 60 grit, this one is 120, but they will still grind into the metal and remove the metal, so not suitable for removing rust. You can go very fine with this flap disc. This is a polishing disc, and this really makes just a smooth surface. Nice to use if you have some welding, you grind down the weld and you want a perfect flat and nice surface. These are good, but they wear pretty fast and I wouldn't use them for removing rust. And you also have these poly discs made of some kind of plastic material. Yeah, you can strip paint, also rust with them, but they wear also pretty fast. And this one is pretty heavy, so it actually you are grinding a bit into the metal as well if you put some hard pressure to it. But because they wear so fast, I don't like using those either. So what are we left with? Yes, these wire brush wheels. I also have a different variant here. I love this. These are very useful for removing rust. If you put very hard pressure on the metal, you might see some sparks. It might take away very thin metal, but normally it's very safe to use, and they are flexing a bit so you can get into tight spots. So let's just start here with these wire brushes, see how the result will be. I will take off all the nuts and bolts and demount everything as I go along. Also, one small tip. If you have a lot of pieces, take one at a time. Don't take everything apart, and when you're done, you're struggling finding the right parts, right bolts, where they go. So I like to take one in one piece, unless you have like a dozen of similar pieces to put together, then you of course can mass produce it. So I think I'll start with the bike stand. Wonder what this flap is for, really. It's some rubber stuff here. Cool. Let's get into the grinding. I have to say one important thing. Always use eye protection, hearing protection, and dress up with some nice clothes, because look here, it even says on the disc wear eye protection, because these wire threads, they will jump out. Not may happen, it will happen. If those hits your eye, don't even think about it. So really important, use proper protection, and especially eye protection. The beauty of this is that they are a bit flexible, so you can get around quite some tight spots. Let me show you here. Ooh. First piece is then done, and it looks like this. Pretty nice. But of course there are some spots, like in the inner part of the foot here, and of course on the inside where the rubber goes. It's of course impossible to get there with this. So a better solution than using angle grinder would of course be to use sandblasting. Then you get into all the areas where the grinder doesn't go. But if you don't have a sandblaster, you don't have a sandblasting cabinet or an air compressor, so what do you do then? Well, my suggestion is, and it's all free, use patience. So if you have plenty of time, use a file, use sandpaper, and just spend some time on it, and you will eventually manage to get the last pieces of rust. But luckily I have a sandblaster and I have an air compressor, so I will do the final parts now. But I don't have a sandblasting cabinet, so I just use a box, and my sandblaster is built so it can take most of the sand into this. Let me show you. So this is my kit. This is the sandblasting gun, and the sand is in this box. You can see it there. And this bag will collect the sand that is left over if you can mount or if you can blast against a flat surface. I have some other adapters as well if you have a angle, different kind of types. But normally when you are sandblasting, or when I am sandblasting stuff that I can't get tight into here, it will get some sand around, dusty in the room. So I have this box just to gather most of it. So let me show you. Here I found quite a rusty piece of metal, and if I get this straight on here, some sand is pouring out, but not very much, and this is the result. This doesn't cost much, but of course you need an air compressor. So let me just use this, put the stand into the box, and send the remaining rust pieces of it. So that is how I go from this rusty, ugly piece of metal ending up with a shiny, beautiful, rust-free piece like this. Nice, isn't it? Of course, I forgot to mention that before I even start this process, I wash and degrease and dry the pieces first. You don't want to start grinding, and at least not sandblasting on dirty stuff. So, but you knew that, didn't you? Yeah. So, okay, I better continue cleaning up, making the rest of the pieces I took off the bike in the similar condition. I think I'll continue in my next video doing the rebuild of the foot pegs, the gear shifter, and putting back the brake stand, the bike stand. So, hope to see you again then, and hope you got some tips on how to remove rust on your bike. Bye-bye!